Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you are all well. So let's start by just saying that yet again, our daily dose of the contacts close to the case, the secret contacts close to the case that only speak to Ashley Banfield have struck again. They have reached out, and the takeaway that I got from it, the primary takeaway, was that someone had said that when you see Bryan Kohberger in person, he is a lot more imposing than he is on film. When you see him in these like clips of him with his handcuffs on and his tangerine suit. Yes, he apparently looks a lot more imposing, of this 200 pounds imposing beast almost, which is very, very different than the what Dylan Mortensen said. But anyway, look, who are we to say? It did get sort of passed off that perhaps he was wearing kind of a suicide or stab vest, something underneath, which made him appear to look 200 pounds. I can see that. I can see it. But anyway, straight into the meat and potatoes, because I had a conversation last night with Mrs. Harsh. Now, Mrs. Harsh don't get very involved in the Idaho 4 case. She's a mum. It's very, very difficult for her to hear the details. And, all she said was, look, so you think he did it then? You think Bryan Kohberger's a man? You think he did it? I saw your video and you said you think it's him. And I said, look, at the end of the day, I have this channel, and this channel promotes a place where people can have a difference of opinion. We don't promote one thing. We don't jump on people or vilify them if they're not agreeing with what we're saying. So I should, in fact, promote that. I should promote it by myself being honest and open about my thoughts and feelings. I can't just continue to say, look, I sit on the fence and I don't have an opinion, when in fact I do have an opinion. And I am, and you will know, I am an advocate for innocent until proven guilty. It's not for us to determine whether someone is guilty or not. In my eyes, it's okay for us to have an opinion, to discuss what information is out there, to kind of go backwards and forth with one another and have the discussion as to why we conclude things the way we conclude them, because it helps us to understand the workings of each other's minds. We're not always going to agree, and that is absolutely fine. But what my video the other day was about, if I just had the information that's out there to consider, the things that were found, the things that have been said in the affidavit, I would have to conclude that it would be very hard for me to say that Bryan was not involved. Now, by me saying, do I feel that he was involved, and saying, yeah, I do feel he was involved, there's a lot more to that. There is caveats to that. Do I feel in my heart of hearts that there isn't more to the story? I do believe there is more to the story, much like the Nicola Bulley case, that we're seeing so much things coming up in that case now. We have channels that are very hard in the paint, pushing that Emma and Paul were involved in some nefarious plan to off Nicola. And we seem to have these hours upon hours of people going over these photographs, these stills of the Ring camera. And I thought to myself, in one breath, you're saying that this is something that had been planned months ago. When Nicola had the visitation to her home, there was something that happened, police in attendance, so on and so forth. And I thought to myself, if you planned this, if this had took months of plan, it was something that had been contemplated and this is what was going to happen, why would you have even left the camera there? That camera was just a complication that you was going to have to deal with. And it ain't as simple as just erasing footage or manipulating, doctoring footage. It isn't as simple as that. All footage, all cameras have metadata behind them. There is ways in which clips can be put through programs. On this computer, I have Final Cut Pro 10, and you would be able to see if images have been doctored, have been changed, so on and so forth. And, I don't buy it. But anyway, I digress. I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. But back to Bryan Kohberger, and I thought to myself, I feel that there's more to it. We are missing a very important fact there. We're missing the why. The why did he do it? It was questioned over at Cocktails and Cocktails, and they were talking about, people just snapped. Maybe Bryan just snapped. And I can't see, people don't just snap. There is something that always lies underneath, and there is a straw that breaks the camel's back. But you have to find that. What happened? What got Bryan's attention from where he was in Washington over to Moscow in Idaho? He was surrounded by students where he was. In Moscow, Idaho, there was 11,000 plus students. What specifically took him to this house, this group of people? Are we saying that it was just simply because he'd seen pictures of them on social media, on Instagram and all these? I don't know. And there seems to be a big missing proportion of this. And that seems to me, in my opinion, what law enforcement are kind of throwing out. I said, I believe it was yesterday, throwing all the feelers out everywhere, hoping to pull something in that forms a picture of the why. The why seems to be what is missing here. But, do I feel that there's a potential for someone else to have been involved? I do. I strongly feel, now that time has progressed, that there is a potential, and I tread carefully, with the Bryan Kohberger situation. Bryan Kohberger, let's not forget, he had mental health issues. He is a war veteran, so I don't want to, piss all over his name. But at the end of the day, look where we ended up. And he wouldn't be the only, war veteran who had suffered from the likes of PTSD and then went on to murder people close to them. There are cases out there, multiple cases out there, where that has indeed happened. I believe there was a Netflix, I'm a Killer, and one of the stories was looked at in depth on this. So look, it happens. But he was in his apartment, he was threatening to kill his roommates, and it took SWAT to bring that to an abrupt close. Now, we see in the Bryan Kohberger, his funeral, his documentation online, that someone had, it looks like they posed as Bryan Kohberger, do you know what I mean? At the end of the day, when this was posted, Bryan had already been arrested. We don't know whether he's got access to internet inside, we just don't know. But I don't feel that he would have put this. But the question does have to be asked, is did he know him? Did Bryan Kohberger know Bryan Kohberger? Can it be proven beyond a reasonable doubt either way? Could it be? Who knows? But I do feel that there is more to this story. And I also do have to go back to the call itself, the 911 call. There's so many things to me in that situation that doesn't make sense. It just doesn't, to me, look right. And I'll tell you for why. And why, again, I feel that this could point towards the fact that perhaps it wasn't Bryan himself who was actually in the property. So we've got a situation where there was an 8-hour-ish delay between the crime and the call. Now, with respect of what happened during this kind of, say, 15-minute window, I don't believe whoever entered into that property entered in that property to do what they did. I don't believe that was their intent. But it escalated and spiraled out of control. And I believe that the witnesses, the people who were in there, the two surviving roommates, one that we've not heard anything from, and the one who has been vocal and, and has took some flack for that. But I question, if she's hearing things, she's seeing things, she's coming out of a room and she's seen this person, she cannot claim frozen shock phase and all this lot when she can clearly look back over what happened and give clear and accurate and concise information that can later be relied on in court to be accurate. You can't have the best of both worlds. You can't say, no, I was fully compos mentis, I know everything, but then easily explain away why there was such a delay in the 911 call. And in fact, the 911 call was made after other people had been called and other people were at the property, heavily contaminating the scene. And the rest is history. I've got a video on the 911 call. If you haven't seen that video and you struggle to find it, let me know. Let me know down below, and I will happily redo that video so you can indeed see it again. Because I do believe that the representation of that call is covered well in that video, because I believe that is exactly how it happened. But could Bryan Kohberger actually be innocent? Could he be, and when I say innocent, could he be connected but not the person who pulled the trigger, so to speak? And I believe that there is still a very strong case that there is more to this. There is more surrounding this. Bryan Kohberger, I've been looking over the documentation, the court documentation, especially surrounding the gag order, etc. And Bryan is heavily involved in that. And he is not stupid. If you go and look on the Idaho court page with where all the documentation is uploaded, the PDFs, you can see Bryan is heavily, heavily involved in what is going on. And he is not a stupid person. And I know we've got this book smart and street smart, and, you know, I get that. I fully understand. And yes, he could be academically brilliant, and what happened that night just got away from him. That's what we have to accept happened if we want to believe that he is the guy. But where do I stand completely? I completely feel that he has something to do with it. But do I believe that he was doing it on his own? Do I believe that there is more to this story? There is something missing. There is a big piece of this story missing. I believe that there is. And I think that at some point we are going to be shocked with something that comes out. Could I be wrong? Of course I could. Let me know down below what you think, and I'll catch you all in tonight's live.